Mayor Aalbers, thank you so much for chatting with us. You're here at the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Convention in Ottawa. What brings you to the convention this week?
Well, thanks, Chris, for the opportunity. Certainly the FCM conference gives us the opportunity to hear from the Prime Minister, as we heard yesterday. Certainly hear from the leader, the opposition today. We also connect with other municipal leaders from across Canada that share very similar challenges that we all share, but also see the opportunities that exist.
Now, one of the big things that is on a lot of people's minds during this convention is bail reform and also the new government. I want to start with the new government because you recently just had the pleasure of sitting down and chatting with the new Minister of Energy and Natural Resources, I believe his title is, yes. Tim Hodgson.
Yes.
Can you just explain how that happened and what were you hopeful to get out of that meeting?
Well, I had the opportunity, the SUMA office had reached out to me and said they had an opportunity to meet with the minister and asked if I was available. Being from Lloydminster and having a little tie to heavy oil, certainly in energy prompted the call from that perspective. I had really hoped to have the chance to express to the minister how important natural resources are, namely oil, gas, to our community as well as to so many other communities in Western Canada, as well as Canada, as an economic backbone to our country. It was certainly a great opportunity to have a chat. We spent 45 minutes and it was very open and very frank about a number of things regarding resources, as well as federal funding of programs such as ISIP. And I shared the story of about our $81 million wastewater treatment plant, but how it was funded up to $75 million. The $25 million that the feds contributed were very much appreciated, that's for sure, as I know many other municipal leaders would say that. But at the same token, 262 claims to get the $25 million back. Bureaucratic nightmare, red tape, and helped him to understand that. Because if they'd have shown up for the groundbreaking, or better yet, the ribbon cutting, which we saw no federal representation on either side, they'd have saw we spent the money. It wasn't wasted. We built what we promised, a state-of-the-art wastewater treatment plant to meet ECCC, the Environment Climate Change Group, and so trying to stress that to him, that there's still a lot of work to be done at the federal level to work with municipalities.
So this new federal Minister of Natural Resources and Energy has a different background than the previous one, Jonathan Wilkinson. When you were speaking to Minister Hodgson, did you get a sense that this is a new sort of era that we're in, or are we still in the same Liberal government as many people are expecting that we could be in?
Well, I came away impressed. He shared that he was on the financial team that helped raise the cash to build the Husky Upgrader, which has been in Lloydminster for a number of years. He also shared he was on the Meg Energy team that helped finance that project. So that gave me a sense of feeling that he had some relationship to the industry, but he indicated he had never seen the project. So that gave me the opportunity to invite a boat to come and visit in Lloydminster. He has definitely been doing asking a lot of questions and gathering information. He's brand new. He's a brand new MP. So he's been on Bay Street for some time. That's concerning, but at the same token, bringing a fresh set of eyes might just bring a change. And that, the jury is out from my perspective, as other municipal leaders and I have chatted regarding that. We're going to give them 6 months and see where the Prime Minister and his cabinet can deliver on some of the promises they've already made.
It's a simple question, but it's a big one. Do you feel like you were heard?
I believe I was heard. Now, like I say, the proof is always in the pudding on the actions. Because if the minister returns and we don't see him again, and we don't see more federal ministers out in Western Canada, the message didn't get through. And, just again, that sense that I got, I think that's why he made that trip out to Regina, on to Calgary, spoke to the Chamber of Commerce and the industry there. Decision makers are certainly centered in Calgary when it comes to oil and gas. So we'll see where it takes us. Like I say, it's going to be a wait and see for a little while.
So what's next now? What do you hope is next? Because you're going to give that 6-month grace period, the honeymoon period, as we like to call it.
Well, I won't actually give him that 6 months from the perspective that I will be attending some events at the Calgary Stampede, and I will be looking for federal ministers, hopefully out and about. And if I can have those 2 minutes to 5 minutes to even longer, I'll take the advantage of it, because I think our message has to be continuously repeated. We have one Liberal representative from Saskatchewan at the federal level now. Buckley Boulanger, and congratulating him on his victory. But in the same token, he's got a big piece of real estate to represent. He's very familiar with the Northern Affairs challenges that happen in our First Nations and Indigenous file. But I welcome him to come and visit Lloydminster so he can bring some of his federal counterparts out. And I would challenge the federal government that they need to have a cabinet meeting or a caucus meeting in Western Canada and not in Edmonton, Calgary, Jasper, Banff, or Saskatoon, Regina, anywhere else. Estevan, Weyburn, Swift Current, Lloydminster, even if they were to meet in Medicine Hat, I think the city of Medicine Hat would welcome that opportunity.
So we were here at the FCM conference, as I said at the beginning, and one of the things that we had was the Prime Minister, as you said. He spoke. Did you hear anything optimistic? Because when I was in that room, I got a sense that this is not the Trudeau government. This is a completely new government that we could be under, or a new Prime Minister that we're under, new leadership, and it seems like he wants to build fast. We talk about oil and gas. We talk about the pipelines. C-69 is a big concern, I'm assuming, for your community.
It is.
What do you hope to see from this new government?
Well, what I heard the Prime Minister talk about was housing yesterday was a huge step. And certainly, it doesn't matter if you're an urban, as the federal government determines it, and we just heard about rural, everybody under 100,000. I fall into that category as a rural.
How does it feel to be rural?
Oh, hey, we depend on agriculture just as much as we depend on oil and gas, and that oil and gas comes from our neighbors around us, comes into our city to be processed into asphalt and upgraded oil. So it's so important. He talked about housing, making sure that the housing programs that he talks about has the effect it has in Toronto, but also in Lloydminster, also in my neighboring communities that are smaller yet than we are, be it towns and villages. If they need 2 or 4 houses built, how do they access that program, and how do those resources make that way? So it's really important. But I think the important thing the Prime Minister needs to understand, in the federal government, the infrastructure to support the growth. Because we've went through a stagnant period of 10 years. I can tell you, we've had lots sitting in our city since 2014 waiting to be built on, and the infrastructure's in the ground. So that's money we've had tied up from a developer as a municipality. But that is what I'm hearing from so many. We need an extra lift station. We need to tie in that master water, sewer, and stormwater drain pipes so we can get the developers going. So those are the things that the federal government needs to understand and get the boots and shovels in the ground so that we can go to work. Because we can't wait a year for the province to decide that they're going to approve a tri-funding party, and then 6 more months, we're already 2 years down the road. So I think that's where, if the Prime Minister and his team are prepared to do that, let's get serious, sit down, bring the representatives from FCM in the room and the provincial government, and let's talk about it and say, this is the action plan. We did it in the 30s. We did it during the Second World War. We can do it today, but it takes the initiative of government to remove the red tape at all levels. We heard about the reduction of red tape and supporting that. Well, let's do it. Here's the invitation, Prime Minister. We're here ready to meet with you today, tomorrow. We'll be back in Ottawa next week if that's what it takes, after you're done with the First Minister's meeting that, as you know, is going to be happening in Saskatoon on Monday. And it's really too bad, as Elizabeth May said, you weren't at the table one more time.
I'm going to pause there for a second. I just have one last question for you, and it's for a separate episode that we're doing. What does FCM mean to the city of Lloydminster, and what do you get from FCM that you wouldn't get by just advocating on your own?
FCM brings the voice of all municipalities that are members, including non-members. They represent that group at a national level. I can't be in Ottawa each and every day advocating for our community as much as I'd like to, in some ways, be here more often. There's a cost, and that cost is shared by FCM by having the total organization. Working through our provincial organizations, representatives, and I'm very fortunate today. I'm still on the board of directors for FCM for SUMA, and I'll see where I stand tomorrow after the election. But I think it adds the value that our voice is heard. We were discussing it with one of my fellow delegates here at FCM from Alberta, and he said, if you're not at the kitchen table, you don't get a chance to enjoy the supper. You don't enjoy some of the spoils of your hard work. And I think that's the important message, as well as making sure our message gets fed back up. It is challenging when there's 2,000 different communities represented by FCM or so, but in the same token, we all share the same needs. Infrastructure, housing, dealing with crime, which we never got to, and dealing with the bail reform. There's so many things that we share that we're stronger together than we are standing on our own.
Okay, you brought it up, so I have to play in that sandbox for 2 seconds, because then I'll let you go, because I know there's another preliminary session going on here in about 2 seconds. Bail reform, rural crime is a massive topic at this month's FCM conference. How has the bail reform issue, and I say the lack of bail reform, affected the people of Lloydminster and surrounding area?
Well, it's affected a lot of people. I've got a little history. I served as a justice of the peace in the early 90s in Alberta, and it was used to be called reverse onus in the criminal code, where if you had an outstanding charge and you were brought before a justice of the peace again and you hadn't followed your things, it was then on the accused to prove why they should go free and not spend 3 clear days in cells waiting to appear before a judge. That's been removed. Today, the police forces, be it municipal or RCMP, don't have a leg to stand on when they come before a justice of the peace, a hearing officer, or whoever they are, saying this individual has a criminal record 2 arm length long, 12 failures to appear, and they've been charged and had issues with serious, that's been lost. And that is the problem. We have to have a scale of justice come back to protect the people, because that's what used to be put in front of myself as a justice of the peace. Individual rights versus the common good. And if your scale tipped, guess what? I'm afraid that was justice. It was judged by common man for common man, and we've lost that. And until the court system, the justice system, and the lawyers step back and let common men judge common men, we will not solve this problem, in my opinion.
Are you hopeful that it can be fixed?
I hope it can be. I had nothing against lawyers. They have a specific job. But in the same token, when you're talking about the people on the street each and every day, I'd love to have that conversation with a lawyer that was on the other side, be it the defense, and having been a victim of crime. How do you feel? You ask a victim of crime, I'll tell you the scale of justice soon moves. And I think that's the problem. We see more victims of crime. And we heard that yesterday from the RCMP and Municipal Police Force during the police vision of what's wrong with this. They know the individuals. You can count them on one hand in some communities, but the system is broken and we need it fixed.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Gerald.
Thank you, Chris.